back to my channel, author J.A. Freeman. My name is Justin Freeman. I am the author of The Ghost of Amalgam, the linking tome. It is available on Amazon.com and BN.com or BarnesandNoble.com. I am continuing on with Chapter 4, The Tree Rider's Raid. So, let's begin. Chapter 4, The Tree Rider's Raid. Lauren followed Amy and Renee into the line destined for Castle Everlasting and walked towards Baronsward Citadel. She looked ahead and saw the procession stretch for possibly 2 miles in front and even more behind, but moved uninterrupted the entire time. As they moved closer, she realized the throngs wouldn't be entering the city, but into 4 tunnels dug into the mountainside to the left. The guards were moving about the lanes, keeping order. Lauren saw Nasra up ahead conversing with a male guard in conquistador armor. She smiled and waved at the girls as they approached her when a ghost rose up from the ground beside the guard's woman. He is a pudgy white male with a big oval face, balding over most of his head with only 2 thick patches of hair on the sides. He wore circular glasses over his brown eyes, not for visual improvement, but for his fondness of them in his mortal life. He wore loose-fitting black slacks, a black vest, with a silver tie loose around the unbuttoned collar of his white shirt. His white jacket carried the 3-door symbol, and the raging blue fire made him look somewhat cool given his overall bookish appearance. Lauren could clearly hear the discussion and didn't mind eavesdropping. Nasra, I have a high-priority message from Mina. Will you receive it? Asked the ghost. Yes, Sigpost. The stray carriage couldn't be located. I asked to confirm its location and disposition of its passengers. We only saw the coach, and it was abandoned by the lighthouse. No passengers, drivers, or purveyor. I'll report back to Mina, but she said the guards were thorough in their search. It's possible the Dark Phoenix has absconded with it. Their air was filled with necrocidium, so they'll probably be arriving momentarily. I'll put the alert out for the guards here. You tell Mina to watch for loyalist activity in the city. Confidentially medium, Sigpost, said Nasra. Yes, ma'am, he responded. The ghost bowed and sank into the ground on the stone well that brought him up. Come, Alexander, she said to her companion, and they walked south, ordering more guards to accompany them. Moments later, Lauren could see a swirling dark mass of necrocidium collecting in the distance behind them. The carriage emerged into the gathering plains, but the girls could tell something was wrong by the commotion in the crowd. The drawn unicorns lost all their silver color and became black as coal and had red eyes with flames that leapt up above their manes. The reaper screeched and stood up wildly, flinging its arms and scythe as its body burned with blue fire and crumbled to dust. The passengers staggered out of the carriage like drunks and appeared mad, shaking their heads as if ants were scurrying about inside that they desperately wanted out. The passengers have all been scarred, said Nasra as she, Alexander, and the guards ran towards it. The unicorns ran off into the empty parts of the field, while fire flew off the reaper's ashes and turned to electric bolts. The bolts splintered into several hundred, forming a massive tower of 40 ovals. The stray bolts condensed to create irises for the ovals facing the cardinal and anti-cardinal directions. The pillar of eyes saw 360 degrees in amalgam within their unknown visual range. Yet the pillar did not remain 40 strong for long, as 36 condensed into 4 large eyes. One eye turned back into a bolt, scooped up the black magic, and formed an electric rung to keep the portal open. The other 3 focused on the Reaper carriage, Baronsward Citadel, and an area in the mountains to the left. Lauren followed that eye to the northwest and saw an incredible but troubling sight. A large tree trunk was barreling towards them, horizontal to the ground. The tree's numerous roots lifted it up and reached around the trunk, carrying it along like a spider, but moving with many more legs than 8. The crowd appeared to have been blasted off by a lightning strike because the trunk was jagged and elevated on the left. Without its royal feature, the tree was unable to mask its trunk's hollowness. The sapwood and heartwood had been carved out, and from this void sprang several large gray wolves that headed directly for the ghost. Atop the trunk sat its rider, clearly female due to the form-fitting white suit with design of green leaves and vines. She wore a finely crafted 3-headed mask, with the center head was that of a young boy with tiny teeth, untamed hair, and debonair eyes. The left head was that of a man with an evil countenance whose eyes were blue flames, decaying ears, and skin that looked like ashes pieced together. Smoke rose from the face as if an extinguished flame had just scorched the head. The right face was of a featureless man with a slit where the mouth should be, and the small, solid white eyes drug lightning through them. The rider was secured to her tree by several thick roots about her waist and legs. "What is that?" asked Renee, coming closer to Lauren, with Amy following, also intrigued. "Trouble," said Lauren, filling with dread. The rider held up a staff, a thick, twisted tree branch painted white. A ball of white light formed at the staff's tip, and the rider shot it into the sky above the processional lines. Amazed and confused at the sight, the crowd stood transfixed. The ball became brilliant white like a star, then burst into flames that rained on the spirits below. The snowy fields were set ablaze, setting many ghosts on fire and disintegrating their husks to blue embers, sending a flash of blue light, their souls flying prematurely to the judge. The frenzied crowd ran east as more ghosts caught sight of the tree rider and his wolves that tore into the gathering and began mauling people. Nasra saw the procession guards were overwhelmed trying to keep order while fending off the wolves that now numbered 100 in the fields. Nasra spoke into her remarks saying, "Captain, there's trouble at the procession. Send reinforcements." The tree rider approached Nasra, who was organizing the few guards around her to protect the carriage passengers and the open portal, thinking the intruder might try to make for the revenant city. The roots wrapped around and flung many of the guards far away into the fields. A stone disc sped through the plains, kicking up snow as it moved. It stopped a good distance from the carriage, widened to 60 feet, and collapsed, creating a chasm that brought up a host of guards, over 50. The rider saw and his wolves converged on his group and engaged the new Elysian soldiers in a fierce battle. "What's going on?" asked Amy, frightened. She was trying to stay with her friends amid the frenzied mob when a ghost pushed her to the ground. "Amy," said Lauren, as she bent down to pick her up. She felt an arm on her shoulder. Renee once again, but she looked past her at a wolf coming their way. Lauren glimpsed the gray beast, a red circular mark blazing between its eyes. "Run," said Renee. They sprinted. Lauren looked behind to judge her distance from the wolf, and with that gaze, caught the beast's attention and ended up separating herself from her friends. It pursued towards the pillar of electric eyes, and Lauren ran into it. The lightning singed her husk for a brief moment before she felt cool, serene, and peaceful. The electric tower erupted into blue flame that stretched to the sky, and Lauren rose up in it. She didn't burn to death, but grew knowledgeable and divine. She floated up the column of flame to its narrowest point and absorbed power from the most holy mark in Amalgam, the Phoenix mark. She could hear a child screaming, "No, my mark!" The child was inside the column of flame, looking up from the ground at Lauren, floating in the air, stealing his powers. The fire was forming his body, creating sinew and flesh about his skeleton. Lauren also heard a woman's voice belonging to a distant oracle who said, "Come to Messina, Lauren. Bring the mark to me." Lauren fell to the ground. The fiery pillar formed a white bird that flew into the child's husk. He jumped on Lauren and began throttling her. "What have you done?" he screamed before teleporting away. The child's face on the rider's mask spoke to her. "Forget the portal, get the girl." The rider turned to see Lauren laying on the ground. On her right hand was an icon of a baby bird forming from ashes, the Phoenix mark. Renee and Amy raced to her side and tried to rouse her. "Lauren, can you hear me?" asked Renee as she shook her. Amy knelt down. "Pick her up or these people will trample her." The mob dispersed suddenly, and before the girls came the rider's treacherous tree. The roots picked up Amy and Renee up by the arms and cast them both deep into the ride amassing by the skyscraping forest. The roots wrapped Lauren up like a mummy and sat her behind the rider. She regained consciousness and saw the rider's enchanted mask. The faces spoke as the mask rotated to give each head a glimpse of the captive. Lauren could hear the rider talking to the mask. Is this the one? Asked the rider. Yes. Take her to the meadow, the voice echoed from the mask. The rider and his wolves left the plains. The tree's roots stabbed any ghost in his path as it rocketed toward the forest. Guards had gathered at the forest's edge just as the chaos ensued. They constructed a wall of dew magic that barred ghosts from moving into the woods, and the panicked ghosts congregated along this barrier. The wall stretched for miles, and the ghosts were spreading out, trying to find its end. Amy and Renee fell in the midst of the mob, dazed from their flight. Ghosts shoved Amy as she tried to stand. Lauren, Renee, someone please help me, said Amy. She covered her head with her arms as dozens of hands fell on her face like hail. Get off of me, Renee said as she kicked Ghost in the knees. Renee stood and ran, knocking people down in her path. Amy and Renee collided and fell. As they sat up, they saw each other. Help me up, said Amy. Renee stood and pulled her up. Get back, Amy yelled at the crowd, and they cleared a small gap. Nice, said Renee, relieved. Thanks, but how are we going to get out of here? We won't, said Renee as terror seized her face. They saw the tree rider approaching fast, shouting, Brilzen dictat invadomi. Lightning struck the barrier, and it spread out along the wall, breaking it apart, allowing the frightened ghosts to push past the guards into the forest. Stop, you mustn't go into the forest, said the guards. Amy and Renee were among the first inside, running quickly along the untamed and snow-covered floor. They leapt across the giant roots, but the ground rose higher and became difficult to traverse without using their hands. The tree rider and his wolves were menacing the ghosts from behind, pushing the gathering inward. Panicked spirits overtook the girls, and among the multitude they began to lose sight of each other, so Amy ran to Renee to avoid losing her again. We have to find some place to hide until that tree thing rides by, said Amy, conversing with Renee while frequently looking back. But it's got Lauren. Shouldn't we try to stop it, said Renee. How? It's moving like a train. Watch out. The girls ran for cover as the tree rushed past. The rider made a rough turn, and her tree collided against a trunk, sending large splinters flying like missiles that killed two nearby ghosts. The wolves only attacked ghosts that would slow the rider. They never killed anyone in their escape. The girls surveyed the forest, which was still a mess in the wake of the rushing tree. The rider damaged several other trees in his flight, leaving a sporadic trail if it continued such a wild trek. Come on, Amy. We can follow the markings on the trunks to get to Lauren, said Renee. Exhausted, Amy said, I say we head back. That tree's moving so fast, by the time we get there, it'll be too late. We should at least try, said Renee desperately, because she could still see the tree in the distance. The many ghosts the rider passed were coming to the similar conclusion as Amy. The danger had passed, and it was time to turn back. Wait, isn't this the forest they warned us about? They said something about the animals, didn't they? Asked Amy. This stopped Renee, who was going on. A lion's roar shook the forest. It was so loud the ground vibrated, and all the ghosts covered their ears in pain. Amy and Renee realized they were both temporarily deaf. They tried to speak, were confounded at the total silence in which they found themselves. Renee saw a large creature moving to her right and had Amy look as she pointed to the north between the bushes. They saw a giant lion 8 feet tall and blistering fast, followed close by a pride of proportionally large lionesses. There was no question that this great beast was responsible for the roar. A multitude of white dots spotted the lion's body. Its mate was 6 feet tall and spoke to the lion. Estok, can we eat the ghost? Not yet. I must speak with Baroness Catherine and discover the nature of this intrusion into our forest. I want you and the other lionesses in prime shape to help me deal with Catherine in case this is an act of war. Let the other animals deal with the ghost, said Estok. His voice was so strong it pushed the air with great force. The lions sat in a large group and waited. In the few moments of perplexity after Estok's roar, animals rushed in from all angles, even the sky. The spirits of cheetahs, leopards, bears, giant snakes, bulls, hyenas, and massive elephants pounced, clawed, stomped, bit, and impaled their victims. Upon many of these beasts were clear marks of mortal wounds of human origin, like bullet holes, missing horns, and tusks, and vicious scars from various traps. Renee and Amy ran as fowls of all kinds flew in above them, snatching ghosts and taking them high into the air, then dropping them from immense heights, allowing the fall to destroy their husks. Guards arrived from the fields to protect the overwhelming number of helpless new ghosts beset by the cold animal spirits. Fire plumes, icicles, blinding lights, and concussive blasts filled the forest surface. Little by little, Amy and Renee's hearing returned. They heard the guards shouting spells and the animals growling, which made the girls feel like they were in the midst of a revolution at the zoo. A giant eagle screeched above, and the girls looked up, then ducked as its beak clapped shut. Its bite nearly missed them both. Its wings snagged a large branch that fell atop Amy's egg, pinning her to the ground. It flew around for a second strike, its body glistening with numerous small white orbs. "Run, Amy," Renee shouted. "I can't, I'm stuck." Amy tried unsuccessfully to move the massive branch. Renee rushed to her aid, but the branch was too heavy to lift. The eagle swooped for a death strike on either one when a thick shell of ice encased its beak and the bird fell with a large thud, shaking the ground like a minor earthquake. Behind them, a young guardsman smiled before pointing his wand at the large branch. "Ascente," said the ghost, and the branch lifted. "Reterium," he said, and the branch spun off. "Thanks," said Amy. She tried to stand but collapsed. Her leg was broken. "Lay down, you're bleeding," said Renee. Amy grasped her leg as bluish fluid streaked down her calf. "It hurts," said Amy. "I'll get help," said the guardsman. "No, wait. I think I can fix this," said Renee to the guardsman. "You?" asked Amy disbelievingly. Renee took Amy's leg in her hand and squeezed it. Her mark glowed, and then she spoke spectral sutra. The wound healed itself instantly, and Amy no longer felt any pain. "Wow," Amy said as she stood. "How does that feel?" asked Renee. "Better." "How'd you do that?" she said appreciatively. "I don't know. I just knew I could," said Renee, awestruck. "Let me see your mark," said the guardsman. She extended her marked hand, and the guards looked at it surely, saying, "The oracle mark. Healing magic comes natural to those with that gift." "I'm an oracle," Renee said happily. "What's happening to us?" Amy said, "What's happening to us? Ghosts, blood, magic. This is crazy." "It's the nature of amalgam. Although a raid has never happened before at the procession," said the guardsman. A woman screamed not far from where they were, and the guardsman left to help. He turned and said, "Get out of the forest and head back to the plains." "Look out," Renee shouted at the guard. A large snake slithered from above and bit the guard's torso, ejecting his soul before swallowing his husk whole. The serpent turned its hungry eyes towards the girl with deadly swiftness. It crept along the ground slowly, raising its head off the ground and turning its gaze from Renee to Amy, as if deciding which one it would eat, and that would be whoever ran first. The snake's reflexes were quick. It leapt swiftly at a brilliant flash between the girls, crushing its head into a door that materialized from the light. The door was hinged on a strong, thick, and elaborate wood frame with a sturdy base that held 3 steps and a golden handle containing an emblem of 3 doors. It swung open, throwing aside the unconscious snake. Out stepped the Baron Lord and leader of the Ghost Nation, Baroness Catherine Cylindris of Castle Everlasting. She is a black woman with brown eyes and a very stern gaze. Her high cheekbones were sharp, and her forehead and eyes had wrinkles which exuded maturity and wisdom. Her body was strong with lean muscles, and her large-brimmed white hat and robes were lined with gold, giving the 5'10" Baroness a powerful presence. She surveyed the mess that was the procession and moved with such charisma that commanded the attention of those around. Amy and Renee wanted to follow her, but the snake regained conscience and lunged for the woman with his fanged mouth stretched wide. With her back facing the lethal creature, in the moment death seemed imminent, Catherine said, "Ascente Reterium." The snake leapt into the sky and was flung into the forest. "Amy, Renee, enter that door. It'll take you to the house of shades. Wait for me to return with Lauren," said Catherine. The girls didn't know how she knew their names or about Lauren's predicament, but they didn't have any reason to question this woman or stay in harm's way. They entered the door, and it sealed behind them, disappearing instantly. Catherine moved into the fields, and the animals were aware of her status. No other animal dared to attack her. She saw her guard commanders trying to organize a path out of the forest, but animals surrounded them, giving them no hope of getting every ghost to safety. Each ghost they told to stay close, so multiple small crowds had formed. Catherine approached one crowd and used her magic mark's power to create another door. This door planted itself right behind the ghost. "Get to the castle," said the Baroness, and the ghost entered with haste. It's Catherine, said the guards, and they cheered as the animals in the immediate area stopped their attack and left in fear. Your order, shouted one ghost. Find all the ghosts and direct them to these doors and take them to the castle, she said. The Baron Lord materialized doors at 4 distant locations, creating a mile square perimeter. The guards did their jobs well, defending ghosts from the animals and leading them to the doors. It took an hour after Catherine's arrival for all the ghosts to make it to the castle. The animals realized that the Baroness was now among the ghosts, and decided to retreat with the exception of Estoc's pride. They searched for and surrounded the Baroness once they found her. Baroness Catherine, said Estoc, bowing his head, surely you've come to explain your decision to go to war with us. We are not at war, Estoc. You know I respect your territory and I've remained true to our separation agreement as stated in the Animal War Treaty. Then why are your ghosts in our land? Estoc thundered. An intruder raided the procession and my ghosts fled into your forest in fear. A pitiful excuse. Why have you reneged on our agreement? Our agreement was that we should stay away from your territory and your animals wouldn't harm my ghosts in the event of an intrusion until you spoke with me. Your purpose in this realm is to protect us from the demons, but you choose to fight us because of old grudges from your mortal lives. I tell you, Estoc, you've always been one step from a cold soul just like your old Lord Maston. I've changed. I'm nothing like him, said Estoc shamefully. Nothing like him? Do you realize what you and your animals have done to those slain ghosts? Some of them are damned forever. Be assured, if your animals ever attack my ghosts again, they'll never hear the end of the Horn of Olives. The pride showed at the thought of Catherine's threat. They backed away as she began her search for Lauren. Estoc ran after her and consulted her privately. He said, Catherine, if not you, then who made the ghost enter our forest? She turned and said it was a ghost of the snow. Estoc hung his head in disgrace. He let out a roar that signaled to all his followers to retreat and led his lionesses and the other animals deeper into the deeper parts of the wilds. Lauren saw the trees move by as if her mother was driving 70 miles an hour. Her hearing was returning after the roar, and she wondered what great beast produced such a sound. The riders' wolves jumped in front of the tree's broken hollow and shrank in size to return inside the trunk. The rider had taken Lauren deep inside the skyscraping forest. The rider had his tree's roots wrapped around the skyscraping tree trunks and lifted them from the ground to stop leaving a trail. They came to rest momentarily at the edge of a towering cliff. Lauren looked below and saw a normal-sized forest with a circular clearing. The trees in this field held their crowns, what Lauren could only make out as white balls and ropes. Held in their crowns, She got a better view when her captor's trees wrapped its roots around 2 nearby trunks and slingshot from the tall forest to the smaller one. The tree was flying high and fast, but they landed gently in the middle of this meadow. Lauren took a gander at her surroundings. The white balls were captured ghosts hanging by their feet. All of them appeared unconscious. Some of the ghosts had degenerated into an orb state and were slowly passing away. The roots unwrapped Lauren and dropped her to the grassy surface while others formed stairs for its master to step down. She watched as her masked captor walked to the middle of the meadow. Emerging from the adjacent meadow edge, she could see a small ghost riding atop a centaur with a female horse woman to his right. He looked no older than 10 years of age and pleased to see them arriving. The child thanked Inez, the centaur he was riding, as he dismounted, and told him and Ariel, the female, to summon the other centaurs to await a meeting with him. They said they'll be gathered within the hour and left promptly to carry out his orders. The child smiled. Lauren could see his tiny teeth. With small gaps between them, he had a pronounced forehead covered by dark, dirty hair, a thin nose, and slim cheeks that narrowed at his small chin. His eyelids encroached upon his brown irises, giving him an alluring appearance that aided him in acquiring followers. He wore a bloused, tattered wool shirt with frayed sleeves held snugly at the waist with a black belt. A thin rope secured a gray hood at the neck, and a phoenix brooch fastened a rugged mantle to the right shoulder. Lead bands secured his brown breeches tucked into his black leather boots. While the rider was talking with the child, Lauren seized this opportunity to find sanctuary in the forest. As she ran, her captor's tree's roots seized her feet and wrapped tightly around her arms. She freed herself and reached the meadow's edge when the tree wrapped a large root about her neck and flung her back into the field. She fell to the ground in front of the child ghost. He looked down at her and said, "You must ask for permission if you wish to leave the meadow, and the answer is always no. You are my prisoner now." That was chapter 4, The Tree Rider's Raid. Once again, my name is Justin. I am the author of The Ghost of Amalgam, the Leaking Tome, which you have been listening to. I will consider reading chapter 5, The Dark Phoenix. I don't know if I feel like doing that, but we shall see. It's already 12 a.m. in the morning on May 15th, 2025. Once again, buy The Ghost of Amalgam at Amazon.com or BN.com or OutskirtsPress.com/Justin Freeman. And yes, thank you for listening if you have been listening. And visit my YouTube channel, Arthur J.A. Freeman. And thank you.